from the brain to the nerves to the joint, everything. And therefore, when this radiation comes in, the body gets confused. It doesn't know whether the radiation is from its own source or whether it's coming from an outside source. And in particular, we can give a very simple example of this. There are a certain number of epileptic people who suffer from epilepsy, who, if exposed to a visible light flashing at about 15 times per second, you can induce epileptic seizures in them. Now the reason for this is not the brightness of the light, it's the fact that the flash rate is recognized by the brain because the brain itself operates on a similar frequency. So the brain recognizes the information. So we have two things now. We have the energy content of the radiation, which causes the heating when it's absorbed, but more subtle effects, the non-thermal effects Professor Akram spoke about, are connected not with the absorption of energy in the field, but with the ability of the living organism to recognize the information content in the field. And so, in the case of the seizure, to recognize the information content in the field. And so, in the case of the seizure, it's not the brightness of the light, but rather the frequency of the flashing. Now, mobile telephones and the technology similarly flash. The handset, for example, emits 217 flashes of microwave light every second. But these are punctuated, so you get sort of drrr, drrr, drrr. So there's a low frequency punctuation. So in other words, the emission comes in 8 groups of 25 flashes per second. Now the 8 is a punctuation, so the one that's missing, drrr, drrr, drrr. The frequency of the slow one is 8 hertz, which is in the middle of the alpha brain rhythm. So in consequence of that, that is how these microwave signals, which are amplitude modulated because they're flashing, at ELF, an extremely low frequency, are recognized by the neural processes in the brain. Now, since microwaves and visible light are just simply different aspects of the same electromagnetic radiation, here we have the electromagnetic spectrum, here we have the visible spectrum, the rainbow, here, infrared, then we get down to microwaves, and then we get down to extremely low frequencies of X-rays at this end. So you see there's really no fundamental difference between visible light, which is known to be able to induce epilepsy, for example, and flashing microwave, invisible light. And therefore we cannot rule out the possibility, and I have evidence of people being affected, of having epileptic seizures induced, both when they live near a base station and when they use a mobile phone, supports this general contention. And therefore we cannot rule out the possibility that microwaves are as dangerous, if not more so, than visible light, personally because they are more penetrating through the skull than is visible light. Visible light has to access the brain through the eyes. The microwaves can go straight through the cranium. Furthermore, the mobile phone handsets, when you're not speaking, called discontinuous transmission mode, they pulse at 2 hertz, 2 times per second, to maintain contact with the base station. Now, if you did an electroencephalogram of an adult and you found waves of a frequency 2 hertz, they're called delta brain waves, that would be invariably symptomatic of some kind of problem in the brain. On the other hand, in the case of children, such waves are normal. Also, such waves come relevant in the stage of deep sleep, and hence it's understandable that that the effect of the mobile phone radiation has different effects on the brain activity when one is awake and when one is asleep. Because the electrical activity is different in the two cases. Now, a less well-known sensitivity is the fact that as an accident of the typical size of biological cells and the ease with which they can vibrate, living organisms themselves support an electrical activity whose frequency just happens to fall in the microwave region as an accident. And therefore, in addition to the body being sensitive to the flash rate, it's also sensitive to the colour of the flashes. In fact, red light is more efficacious in inducing seizures in epilepsy than blue light. And here we have a preconditioned pre-sensitivity to microwave radiation anyway. And when it's pulsed, as it is in the GSM system, these two aspects combine and conspire to make the whole technology potentially extremely biologically dangerous. So just to summarise so far, inanimate systems and the human body, of course, also can respond to the intensity of the radiation simply by heating up. With certain handsets, the heating is a problem. Near base stations, heating is not a problem. And yet, we have many reports of health problems by people resident long-term in the vicinity of base stations. I've argued that living systems can recognize frequencies. We all live on certain circadian frequencies, the heart frequency, the brain frequency. We have a frequency biology defined, is characteristic of living organisms. There's been a lot of advances in structural microbiology, the structure of DNA and all these genome things. But all these things are moving, they're alive, they're vibrating, which gives rise to a frequency biology, which makes us like turned on radio. We're turned on because we're alive. And hence we're tuned to certain frequencies. Now this frequency sensitivity is not addressed by any guideline in the world. And therefore, they failed to take into account a most discriminating feature, namely that the subjects being irradiated are alive, because their aliveness opens them to influences of the radiation which they would not otherwise have. For example, if you applied the guidelines to the epilepsy problem, they would afford no protection, because they only regulate the brightness and not the flash rate. It's the flash rate, it's the frequency that's the biologically damaging thing. So we have to educate ourselves, we have to liberate ourselves from this intensity mentality, this intensity-based mindset. And this is done, at the moment, only by attempting to introduce legislation to reduce the emissions from base stations, or to introduce protective screening devices to reduce further the intensity emitted by the antenna of your phone, so it doesn't heat up your brain so much, which is a good thing. But it's only one side of the coin. The user is left vulnerable to the subjective non-thermal effects allied to his or her aliveness. Not just in the microwave region, but in the more penetrating low-frequency magnetic fields. And in the case of a handset, of course, which emits microwave radiation, but in order to do so, you have a battery in the set, and these pulses are powered by surges of electric current from the battery to the device, and then it emits. Now, you've got a changing current, which gives rise to a magnetic field. And so you've got the two problems in the case of a handset, the microwave pollution and the low-frequency magnetic field. from the mechanism that generates the microwave pulses. And so, this situation requires a complete mind change. Since we cannot do anything to regulate the incoming field other than turn down the intensity, that's not really a problem. We have to shift attention from the field that's coming in to the subject that's being exposed. And this is the basis of this very subtle technology which Professor Akram alluded to in his introduction. And therefore we have to introduce the concept. We already have, between device and device, the concept of electromagnetic compatibility, EMC. When I was on the aircraft this morning, the plane, we were told we could not use our mobile phones because they may interfere with the control of the plane. Similarly in hospitals. But we ourselves, what about the compatibility between the device and the user? We are the ultimate electromagnetic machine. And therefore we need to introduce and extend the concept to electromagnetic biocompatibility. That's the crucial new element whereby we start to address the electrical sensitivities of the technology. I should have 2 minutes. To understand the idea behind this, let us recall the use of vitamins, which we take to strengthen our immune system against, for example, bacterial infection. We don't go around with a mask over our head, like Michael Jackson is, I think. We take something to make us more resilient to the electromagnetic pollution. And hence this suggests that we develop a kind of electromagnetic pharmacology, an antidote, to strengthen our immunity against this electromagnetic pollution in the same way as vitamin C does for bacterial infection. And thereby we can... Now there's a vast amount of evidence that in recent years, and also for the last quarter of a century, indicating that humans are adversely affected in subtle ways by the kind of radiation from mobile phones, from VDU screens, from televisions, and maybe other things, indicating that although these devices are electromagnetically compatible, they are not electromagnetically biocompatible. Despite assurances from the manufacturers and other people. I can show you many references, you probably can't see this, it's too small. But I've just finished a report containing over 47 references dating from the late 1960s, indicating the existence of these adverse health effects. So a possible approach then is to treat like with like. We have an electromagnetic pollution. Let us try and do something electromagnetic to compensate, so we don't get damaged by the pollution. And this is the philosophy underlying what I call the second generation. The first generation are simple naive screening devices, which will screen the microwaves, but they will not screen the low-frequency magnetic fields. There's two such devices. One is an active device due to Litovitz, which attempts to disguise the coherence of the radiation so that it makes it more difficult for the brain to recognize. The second device, which we're our concern today, is an even more subtle device, a passive device, known as the techno-alpha oscillator. Alpha, because it addresses the alpha electrical activity of the brain and fortifies the alpha activity against degradation by incoming electromagnetic pollution. And this device is, when it's exposed to the radiation from a mobile phone or a VDU, emits a coherent magnetic field in the frequency range of the alpha brain waves, which thereby stabilizes this very important basic brain rhythm against being destroyed by the external radiation. So it appears to work. How exactly it works is we get to discover. We have some ideas. Very recent developments in physics throw some light on this, but it works empirically by strengthening the algorithm and by strengthening certain iron protein links. Much of the last half second, and that leads into the next thing. Now, to show the efficacy of this device in promoting biocompatibility, Shapiro Robin will tell you about some experiments done in France where one can see that the depression in the immunological and hormonological response of young chickens is prevented when this device is in place. And Professor Derek Clements-Kroon will give us a second example of a double-blind crossover field study showing the effectiveness of the device in a real office scenario where many VDU apparatus are working. Thank you for your attention.
Probably it's important that the last word has been translated to Mr. Smith. What Professor Hyland is telling there, it is that one way is to compensate at the biological level with hyper-weak field, like techno-air. In Technolab, we are repeating. In Technolab, we are repeating always that the measurement is one thing. The biological effect is one other thing. And we are always to check what we are doing at the biological level. All. Do you need some time? It's okay. And for yourself, it's okay. Okay, you can touch it. I will show you work made in Montpellier University. This work has been made with the VDU screens and with our technology, which is Techno-Air. And with this work, with this first work, which is here also, we have understood that we have not only to speak about cancer regarding the question of the electromagnetic pollution. If we are speaking about cancer, we are speaking of something that we have to search like that. If we examine what happens, we can be aware that it is the immune system that is concerned. What is this experiment? We take embryos, chicken embryos, okay, and we measure, first of all, we measure the mortality. And what you see, you see that eggs exposed to a computer screen are dying at the level of 70%. Do you see that? 70% of embryo mortality. And if you have, in comparison, the control group, you see that the control group is at about 15%, 15 and 20%. And the protected group with our technology is also around 20%. What it means? It means that the VDU, the video display unit, is not biocompatible. It means that it's not biocompatible. And after that, we analyze the hormonal and the immune response of the chicken to the VDU radiation. At the level of the hormonal response, we are studying what is happening with the corticosterone, which is one hormone that the body mobilizes for the first defect. So this group is the control group. The control group is without nothing, without electromagnetic field. It's a control. You see that the control group, compared to the exposed group, the second one, has a level of corticosterone production twice compared with the exposed group. And if you take the protected group with the pollution, but also with technology, you see that the results are the same. It means that when we protect only on the electromagnetic field coming from the value, we have the same result. And it means that the decreasing of this production is due only to the electromagnetic field. Do you understand that? Secondly, melatonin, control group, protected group in green, you see that the melatonin is completely absent when we have exposure to the VDU without protection. And here, with the immune system, you see that the exposed group here has no response with the immune system. This work has been published in Bioelectromagnetics, that is very well known for the people working in this area. What it means? It means that here you have exactly the situation of chronic stress state. Each body which is with chronic stress state has this kind of response. Okay? And for us, it was 7 years ago, it was the discovery that the electromagnetic field is a stress factor, a chronic stress factor with the chronic exposure. And after that, we have also here the proof that it's a compensating emission that is techno is working. We have the biological proof that it is working. When we are saying in Technolab that we have always to measure at the biological level, always biological proofs are necessary. Why we are saying that? One other example with the mobile phone. The control group is about 15% of mortality. Here it is with the eggs. If you expose these eggs to the mobile phone here without protection, the mortality is about around 60%. And the paradox is that if you use a copper gauze or a case that is shielding the microwave, the copper gauze is also shielding the microwave. In this case, it is absolutely incredible. The mortality is increasing. It means that if you shield the microwave of a mobile phone, the mortality and the toxicity of the emission are more important for the embryo. For the moment, nobody can understand what exactly happens. But what we can do, we can say, it is that the extremely low frequencies emitted by the mobile are probably responsible of this situation. And it was the 217 hertz and the 8 hertz that you are telling us. Yes?
That was my question. Are you using in your experiment as well a pulsed mode emitting to microwaves, or are you using steady microwaves?
We are using always a real mobile phone, okay? A mobile phone like yours and like mine, with a system that switch on and switch off the mobile regularly, okay? And we have all the spectrum coming from the mobile. It's the answer to your question. Okay. And we can say again here, the high level of mortality is with the shielding of the microwave. It means, and we are now always speaking with the people that are physicists, it means that it's not sufficient enough.
Sufficient.
It's not sufficient, not enough to make a measurement in physics. We have always to make a measurement in biology. And the model we use is so simple. You take eggs at 37 degrees and with a certain humidity, and you look if the eggs are dying or not. And you have exactly the measurement of the biocompatibility of your exposure. Other works with TechnoAO show results. And TechnoAO technology, as Professor Hyland told you, has a peak at about 10 hertz. This measurement is made with magnetometer, with supraconductor, supraconducting captor. Okay? It's not a usual magnetometer because you cannot measure femtotesla with usual magnetometer. You can measure femtotesla only with a squid and with supraconducting captor. Here we are with the emission of the active solution that is liberating after electromagnetic treatment, and it is the pattern of TechnoLab. Here you can understand with this spectrum that it is directly in resonance with the brain waves. And we have made different electroencephalogram, and we see that when TechnoAO is used, is increased the alpha rate strength. And also because it is increasing the alpha wave, we can understand that it changes also the mood of the people. Have you seen people working all the day in front of the screen? They are all aggressive, tense, tired, with headaches, with problems with back pain. And also, one study in England, before the study of Professor Clement's group, had been made in neuropsychology by Professor Canavan. And what we see that the arousal is increased by more than 30%. It means that people that was tense have a good mood after to be protected. And it's normal because